thematic with making the invisible visible. We are part of the Design Science Studio. I'm Amanda Joy Ravenhill, Executive Director at Buckminster Fuller Institute. We have Helena Sheridan here, who is from habRitual. Together, we have joined forces to create a decade-long artist incubator and accelerator program that's based on education around inspiring people to become part of the regenaissance, the regenerative renaissance that the world is transforming into. Roxy, such an honor to be here with you today. Thank you so much for putting everything together.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Amanda. And thank you all the crew who's on board. We have an incredible cohort of creators from all over the world, all ages and backgrounds and passions, who have really come together under this mission to direct their creative life force energy towards inspiring a future that works for 100% of life. And so today we are enjoying this amazing salon. And so for anyone who is tuning in from the world out in the stream, we hope that you join us and come over into the world that we have created. There's two different immersive galleries and so many amazing presentations and performances throughout the day. And the one that you're going to get a sneak peek into, but just the first part, is called, well, the space is called Agora, which I will let Nico introduce. And inside of Agora today, we will be hearing from the participants of the Living Systems Collaboratory, which is this amazing sub-program inside of the Design Science Studio, so generously funded by Mansour Vakili. And it's all of the artists, or a good chunk of artists, who are in the Design Science Studio whose work is focused on living systems. So John Crawford, who is the director of the Emergent Media Design Lab at UCI, who's our partner for the Living Systems Collaboratory, will share more about this in just a moment. But just, I'm here as Amanda mentioned, partner with BFI for creating the Design Science Studio and the director and architect of the studio. And we're here because we know that it's time for art that changes history. And as we are coming together to reform our collective narrative towards a future that is regenerative and just, we get to build community and coherence on that path and do the work and feel and see the unheard and the unfelt and make the invisible visible. So it is time for art that changes our future. And we're at this cusp of wild change, and a thriving planet and healthy human society is within our reach, if only we dare to bring them into being. So welcome to this Immersive Artist Salon. I'm going to hand it over to Nico to talk a little bit more about Agora, and then he will introduce John Crawford. Thank you, and we hope that you join us inside the salon. I'll put up, while Nico shares, another slide so that you can see where to buy tickets if you're out in the live stream world.
Thank you, Roxy. So Agora is a very, very fascinating space. When we started creating this virtual world, we started like trying to map out all the projects that we had and where they fit, and we ended up creating different spaces like the Renaissance Cafe and the art exhibition and the Bakis Lab, with some of the projects that are more like leaning towards inventions and solutions. And the Agora is a space that we conceptualize with Stephen Bao and Akiko. And basically, you know, when we started the studio and we started to try to explain it and like figure out what it looked like, we didn't find anything in like recent history that was like it. And we needed to go way back, actually almost to the beginning of last century, to find a perfect example of something that was very similar in concept and that ended up becoming a really important place, and that is the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus was a school that was created by Walter Gropius, and it was an architecture school, design school, and I'm not sure how conscious they were when they were creating the school of the impact that it was going to have, but it ended up being one of the most interesting and impactful places of creation in the past century. And many incredible artists went through it, and they redefined design for almost an entire century. And so many of the modern design that you see, both in architecture and design around the world, is inspired truly by all the work that they did. And it also had a tremendous impact on at the social scale. They not only design things, but they put out some very important like concepts and ways of thinking. And so when we started thinking about the studio, we really thought that that's what we're doing. We're just gathering artists of different disciplines, but it's not just about creating art. As we've said many times, we are aiming to create art that changes history, art that is thinking in systems and that is really going above and beyond. And we were having fun the other day saying that in our ideal vision of the future, the systems, the cities, the things that need like deep thinking on how their structures are designed will be designed by artists instead of by other kinds of more or less creative disciplines. And our goal is that artists end up designing the systems that we humans behave and abide by, and that the bankers end up writing more poetry. And so this is what we're creating here in this Agora space. It's just a space for ideation and co-creation, for deep thinking, for having deep brainy conversations about what the future holds. And we're incredibly excited about all the things that are happening here. In this particular time, we decided to invite in all the grantees of the Living Systems Collaboratory, which is a fascinating collaboration that we're doing with UCI. And John will be able to tell you a bit more about it, but you'll see that it really fits within the concept of the Agora. John?
Hi, everybody, and happy to be here with all of you. My name is John Crawford. I'm a professor in the School of the Arts at University of California, Irvine. And Roxy, you seem to be sharing your screen.
Yeah,
Is that your intention?
I had meant to share just for anyone who's tuning in from the Facebook Lives. So if they want to buy tickets, this is where they would go. And so if they just go to ruthpresence.co/in/design science, it will take them to a page where they can explore. So that is just following through with what I said I would do. And John, let me know if you want me to show the other slide.
Hi, Maxie.
Great, and maybe we can also ensure that everyone else is muted. So nice to be with you all. As mentioned earlier, I have the great honor of being one of the co-founders of the Living Systems Art and Design Collaboratory, which is organized and presented by Design Science Studio at Buckminster Fuller Institute in partnership with habRitual, and my research lab, the Emergent Media Design Lab at University of California, Irvine. And we're very grateful for Mansour Vakili, who really is the spearhead, the person who spearheaded this whole activity when he originally contacted me to look for ways of communicating his vision of living systems to a wider range of people through the idea of creating art and design that find ways of explaining and communicating and embodying and finding ways that artists and designers can support the development of the Living Systems project. So in this collaboratory, we're working with over 25 designers and artists. They're working on designing projects that aid people in perceiving the biological, cognitive, social, ecological, philosophical, spiritual, mathematical, political, and technological dimensions of life as a unified whole, as inspired by living systems. The theme really, in brief, is that everything is a system. System philosophy helps us understand that humans occupy a self-organizing living system, which is our planet, And in that, we have an inherent capability to sustain life through the forces of the planet. Living systems are cognitive entities with an inherent tendency to structure themselves in nonlinear network patterns capable of performing highly complex functions with minimum effort. And connecting this to the world we live in at this very moment, the nonlinear nature of this digital era is an indication of the emergence of the planet's ongoing process of self-organizing and self-awareness. For us as humans to synchronize with this process, we want to look to systems theory, network theory, and other aspects of living systems theory as guidelines for harmonic and creative participation with our living planet. So when I learned that that was what our wonderful Monsieur is all about and has been working on for years and years and years, I immediately realized this connects so deeply and so strongly with what I knew was happening with the Design Science Studio and Buckminster Fuller Institute. And I was very fortunate that I had been working with Roxy on a number of projects. And so we found a way to connect all this together into something that's brand new. We've done collaboratories before at UCI. Typically, these collaboratories are projects outside the boundaries of our individual university, where we connect with either academic or design-oriented or artistic-oriented programs in other institutions. And they're typically a little bit outside the normal curriculum because, of course, in the university environment, as much as many of us try to battle the tendency, there is an unfortunate tendency to kind of siloization where we focus in on areas that are in themselves super important, super interesting, super fruitful, but sometimes by doing that, we miss out on the opportunities for connections with the broader environment around the university. So as a university professor, in addition to doing all the things that I'm supposed to as a professor, I feel it's partly my obligation, my responsibility, and my great joy to find ways to link out to other people, other forces that can benefit from the kind of wonderful things that go on at a place like University of California, Irvine, but also can connect out to the broader world. And so these collaboratories have been going on for a few years. This one, the Living Systems Collaboratory, is, I think, the most advanced and also the most far-reaching because of the participation of Roxy and her habRitual studio, the Design Science Studio. Many of the participants in the collaboratory are from that studio, and also from the UCI students and other faculty who have been part of this. A little later on today, you'll get a chance to meet my wonderful colleague, Lisa Noggle, who is also a professor here at UCI. We're both in the School of the Arts, and people sometimes aren't aware that the School of the Arts at UC Irvine is one of the few truly conservatory environments that are inside an academic institution. Or another way of thinking of it is that UCI has the great vision to be a strong, comprehensive academic university that inside it has the this wonderful conservatory environment where our students and faculty work in a very focused, creative way on areas including dance, theater, music, visual art, and all forms of interdisciplinary art practice. And in the School of the Arts, my lab, the Emergent Media Research Lab, focuses on the technologies of the future applied to the art making of today. And we are looking at ways that we can connect emergent media technologies, by which we mean the technologies that are emerging, available to us, including computers, networks, those kinds of things, with socially engaged art making. So our art is about trying to make a difference in the world, and that can be defined very broadly. My own focus, my own strong interest is on eco-design awareness, and so I do a lot of work in areas of art and design focused on ecological awareness, but you can imagine lots of other opportunities for socially engaged art making. And connected design is a big focus of what we do, really trying to find ways that intuition, empathy, other forms of important human connection can take a leading role in the design process. So For me, that is one of the most important areas that living systems, I've learned so much from living systems in that regard. So with that, I'm really excited that you'll be able to get to see our wonderful Living Systems Collaboratory presenters. I hope you'll learn more about them, follow the links, and support the work of these wonderful artists and the groups that are supporting them. With that, I'll turn it back to Roxy.
Thank you, John. And just a massive shout out to John Crawford, now a dear collaborator and friend, but also just an incredible teacher and guiding force. I've never really worked with someone who I feel this from people in life, but it's different. Like, I feel so much respect and love and care and like sincere curiosity from you with literally every single student you interact with, as if they're the greatest teacher of your time. And it's so empowering for everyone, and especially me, I can say. And so much of this would not have happened without you. So thank you so much for all that you bring to the world and your dedication to creativity and a better future.
Thanks so much, Roxy.
Art and design.
Thank you.
Of course. I have the pleasure of kicking it off. So I'm going to introduce our first artist in order, not by favorites, of course, because they're all amazing. But our first artist today presenting will be Ada Perez, now a dear friend, so many dear friends through this process. Ada is a futurist, systems designer, artist, activist, polymath, an enthusiastic curator of people, patterns, and stories. She takes a philosophical and anthropological approach to technology, merging logic and creativity to design immersive problem-solving, learning, and development environments. Her current interest lies in the anatomy of transformation and innovation, from ancient wisdom, natural systems, and indigenous community practices to digital and emerging technologies. Welcome, Ada.
Thank you, Roxy. Thank you, everybody. So a little introduction. The project is called The Myth of the Ego. I believe that as many of us as humans, especially in the global north, have lost that sense of wonder and awe at the magnificence of life, unless, of course, it serves our particular need. Our egos have us colonizing, categorizing, rebranding, and assigning value, mostly economic, to most non-human entities, putting the needs of ourselves and our species as our primary focus. For this project, I chose to look at our fascination with the enlightenment that can come from sensory isolation, Vipassana flotation tanks from caves. When we remove other distracting stimuli and immerse ourselves into the stillness, explore the shadows, and let go into the darkness. The Kogi people from Colombia use caves as part of a 9-year ritual, a rite of passage, as a container or a technology of enlightenment, to nurture their future shaman and attune their energy and presence to the earth. My inspiring collaborators, including Marcus Anderson, my co-founder, who's here online, hi Marcus, and I are making the invisible visible by creating a virtual cave. By removing your sense of sight and spoken language and focusing on the sounds, we hope that you'll be able to embody the visceral relationship between our egos and the dis-ease of climate change, to begin to create new language for a new hierarchy of needs. What we're doing is we're creating a space for us to ask ourselves the question, what kind of ancestors do I want to be? So a few instructions. What you're going to experience is a 4-minute trailer to the bigger experience. This is normally best experienced by wearing headphones. So if you've got some, grab some, and a blindfold. If not, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. After listening to the trailer, please take some time just to pause and reflect on your experience and where your ego showed up. So sit comfortably, breathe deeply, and join me as we enter the cave. Right, and I ask you to close your eyes. Let's see, hopefully this works.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me in the cave. You can join the rest of the journey later. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ada. We recommend for everyone to go find Ada's beautiful installation inside of New Art City. Thank you for taking us on an embodied journey through your work and for all that you are in this world.
Thank you, Roxy. Love you.
Love you. All right, next up, we have another incredible artist, Akiko Ogawa, artist, systems thinker, creator of Hypergroove Collective and SeedShare. I'll be sharing a pre-recorded video from Akiko catching us up on her work.
Hi, so I will be presenting to everyone my development phase presentation. Let me share my screen. So I really want you to think about where you might be located and the bioregion which you are in. I want you to think deeply about the place that you're in at the moment and the types of species that might be existing around you. And I want you to explore whether you know much about these species and these plants within your bioregions and whether that they might be endangered. And if not, would you like to explore more about it? So this is what SeedShare's purpose is. It's not just a platform to enable you to explore more about these varieties, but it is a platform to connect seed guardians that are increasingly conserving and saving indigenous and endangered varieties within their local region. So it's a social network, it's a shared marketplace, it's also a shared accounting system, taking part in the gift economy, and it's also a platform cooperative model where seed guardians within this platform get to then democratically own the actual virtual seed bank that they are sharing with other individuals within it. So that's what SeedShare is. It's a platform that enables the social experience and allows these social contracts between the local indigenous varieties, as well as the people that are saving them and taking part in the local food movements to protect native varieties and create seed sovereignty for the whole world. So that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming to achieve seed sovereignty across many different countries and bioregions, and to encourage people to create their own seed banks within their local communities. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to democratize the food system and to enable seed guardians to align their incentives and to onboard other individuals that might not know much about their local varieties to then take part in seed sovereignty and also own their own food supply. So that's what SeedShare is, and that's my project. So thank you for listening.
Wonderful. That was amazing. I will say that Akiko is one of our youngest members of the studio and also one of the most brilliant young revolutionaries. I wish that I was thinking the way that she was thinking or is thinking at her age. But age is but a farce at this point. I don't actually ever know how old anyone is. So anyways, yay, Akiko. Okay, that was amazing. And so much progress. It's so inspiring to see how everyone's work is evolving. And so now we've gone from England over to South Africa, where I will introduce Helena Sheridan, South African future strategist and impact creator. Her passions include curating productive systems, creative and innovative solutions, the law of least effort and spider diagrams. So without further ado.
With the framework of making the invisible visible in the context of living systems, I will walk you through my project planning board as it stands. Following an invisible thread sewn into my fabric, I can pinpoint numerous unconventional moves back to my decision to not attend the all-white Afrikaans university that I was supposed to, and going off in search of diversity in the mother city instead. From quitting my young career in advertising, to collect plastic and furniture from the streets of Barcelona, to build junk crafts so that we can make a hoo-ha about plastic pollution while living on the Rio Ebro by our own rules. To my time in the burnosphere, where I had roles on all levels of crews building temporary environments for immersive experience of community at big gatherings on 4 continents. There was a small experience production company and big community Skillshare projects, making art and decor from repurposed and or local sustainable materials. And then there was a pandemic. With our industry declared forbidden, we built a greenhouse, set up an NPO, and started actively working on our fun plastic dream when someone sent me a link to the application to this design science studio thing. Since then, each session and discussion, pod meetup and lab hour has helped me to turn this doodle from March 2020 into this presentation. From the early revelation that South Africa is an ideal setting for Sandra Kwak's fourth world standard, to realizing that what we're actually actively trying to do is implement the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals on the ground. It's doing homework on our pilot community and finding out that the elders of the indigenous community had requested a research piece, and the progressive creative newcomers in the neighboring town had implemented a movement, which both indicate that the combined community is longing for and planning towards something that my work can facilitate. It's finding out that Genadendal was South Africa's first mission station and the site of the first educational college in the country, then seeing the underutilized historic town square and immediately recalling my first circular community model. From recognizing Fuller's Dome as the huts of the first people of Southern Africa, to seeing the potential of repurposed plastics in revitalizing ancestral crafts and products, and realizing the value of learning and teaching hands-on skills and practical knowledge to future generations. An invisible thread has connected every seemingly random move that has brought me to the right place at the most critical time, capable of visualizing a future where sharing knowledge from our segregated ancestors opens up a new world of possibilities. So right now the project update is, I'm busy picking up the leads, connecting the dots, and filling in some gaps I hadn't even seen before, while developing a blueprint for communities that succeed through the optimized combination of age-old knowledge and ever-developing technological advancement. Thank you.
Incredible. Thank you, Helena. Thank you. So we moved from South Africa to, I think, Spain with Carlotta Anun. And you can help me pronounce that when you get on, Carlotta. Carlotta is a Venezuelan-born, French-embraced artist, a disillusioned physicist, and a keen observer of digital mutations. Her work highlights neglected states of mind and appeals to the brave ones. She explores the immateriality of technology as it progressively blends with organic structures. Often research-based, her work combines fine art and techniques with scientific experimentation and technology to create alternative realities, possibilities, and dimensions. Welcome, Carlotta.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, Faith. As computers and smartphones are now more necessary than ever, we unintentionally transform them into a necessity, almost a physiological need, as if our own breath, trapped in a virtual dimension, expands into a confining mass, as if instead of using our breath to speak, we retain it and asphyxiate. Symbiotic Experiment for Future Ways of Breathing is an experiential series that examines the relationship between breath and technology as a living system. This is the first iteration of the idea, shown as a video installation in the New York City space of the Salon. My next iteration will be a performance in which the artist's oxygen supply will depend on people's willingness to use their computers to breathe. Here is a prototype showing what the performance will be like.
Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Carlotta. It's a pleasure to introduce Ruta. She is an imaginator, exploring how creative energy transforms and sparks coexistence. She works toward a world that works for all, a world in which everyone can co-create value naturally. She blends technology and creativity and business to help people raise their brain children. Because ideas shape our culture, she likes to say. And working with ideas is a sensitive business. Often a mirror helps turn a thought into value. And this is how she helps people. She serves as that mirror for folks and enables projects and thoughts to become clear sentences and websites and prototypes. She's a marketing consultant and a content marketer, digital skills coach and a web designer. And in her artistic projects, which you're going to experience today, she explores how ideas become memes. Welcome, Luta.
Well, thank you so much. And hello, everyone. Hello, world. I hope you see my screen there. Yeah, so I'll just get started. So my project is Mutanto, and it is a comic coloring book about living systems and personal transformation. But let me start with a bit of storytelling. I made a video as a preview of my story. So I will just read the narration of my story for you. Once upon a time, universe squeezed into a box, and bacteria watch it all on beef flakes. The universe got a uniform octopus. On the mission to hack a logical world, universe jumped straight to blood vessels. Oh no, octopus hands got stuck inside a human head. Ouch, hello headache, vomiting migraines. The dark times came, human vomit rain, and plants dying day by day. Universe felt like trying the easier way, hacking human minds for YouTube and modern shamans, yay! While the human mind kept sleeping, electronic music kept repeating. Hello, body woke to music noise. Come on, cells, hurry up, transform. So the morning came, tsunami of ideas inside the human brain. Symbiosis was completed, universe succeeded. So that's just a preview of my style. And the book itself, how it's gonna look like, it will be made as 7 chapters, all hexagon shape, and published separately. And then together they form a giant hexagon. And then the last chapter will be empty for the readers to draw their own personal transformation story. And so the comics, well, a coloring comics would look kind of like this. That's a rough prototype. And the idea is that when people just first time after many years, just like start coloring the book and also answer deep questions inside the book as with reflection prompts, they sort of like find the creativity as well as when they engage more in my comic story. And more so, the book will be illustrated by unique illustrators that come from different parts of the earth. So far confirmed are Sadie South Fedorova and Malu Duke. And I'm looking for 4 more illustrators that come from different parts of the earth. And lastly, my book will cover sciences and philosophies that relate to living systems, such as synergetics, microbiology, metaphysics, living systems philosophy, mycology, ecology, and mathematics. But then they will be sort of explained with the creative twist and metaphors, and they will form spells, as I call it. And in a book, when a character learns those spells of living systems, then they transform and become this sort of like creative human being with the sense of coexistence and deep connection to all living world. So that's about my project and what I'm looking for. Well, people, I suppose they could come to my website, mutanto.world, leave the email address so that I'm more motivated to produce this work. And I'm also looking for help just answering this question on manufacturing and printing. So how actually I go about printing and manufacturing this hexagon shaped book. So yeah, if anyone has experience, I would love to chat. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruta. I'm so excited to have those books in my pocket. And yes, I think between all of us, we can definitely find you collaborators from around the world. Really looking forward to having that out in the world. Next up, we have Rasma, who's a psychedelic psychological maven and multidisciplinary relational heartist, generating empathic embodied edutainment. Rasma's life purpose is to make healing accessible to all via curating cathartic containers for community corporal care. Rasma invents interactive experiences for diverse audiences via synthesizing the research of transpersonal somatic psychology and expressive arts therapy into playful prompts. So excited for your work, Rasma, and to get these playful prompts out into the world through the BFI community and beyond. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Today, I am very grateful to share eco-regulation, which is a portion that is interactive and integrative of a larger space-holding skill-building course. Eco-regulation is an embodied practice of communicating directly with your nervous system to restore a state of balance. At its heart, eco-regulation is nature-based nervous system nourishment. Eco-regulation is the practice of self-sourcing soothing from our surroundings so that we find peace in our soma via visceral experiences of belonging to our beloved biosphere. Eco-regulation makes whole being wellness accessible anytime by distilling academic somatic psychology into playful physical prompts proven to put us human animals, that's human animals, as I like to say, into states of relaxation. In my 15-year career, accompanying and attending to those in the throes of deep transformation, I use eco-regulation as a grounding rod to aid those in states of challenge to find a calming center in the eye of the storm. Through harvesting these hard-won insights from holding others in these extreme altered states of consciousness, I am delighted to make these helpful therapeutic tools available to all through eco-regulation. Because neurons that fire together wire together, the more frequently we can all practice resilience skills daily, the greater the ease with which we can access regulation in more turbulent times, which we all find ourselves in today. If you feel available, please find a little bit of space or use the space that you're occupying to join me in a brief shaking prompt. So the scientific foundation for shaking prompts comes from extensive studies of animals. Animals, when traumatized, such as when a pack of deer is chased by a wolf, once they get to a safe place, they shake to discharge trauma and release their nervous systems. So watch your pets or deer for really great examples of this. But we as human animal culture have suppressed this natural tendency. So this is just one of the many things I'm striving to bring back in a revival of compassionate corporeal culture through normalizing shaking. So if you could close your eyes if you wish and see if you're holding tension in any part of your body and just lightly shake it. It could be like as small as rolling your head back and forth, or it could be as big as like standing up and really directing the energy back to the ground, or shaking up as well is also good. But anything where you're bouncing or shaking or even bouncing all the balls of your feet is good. And I know I have a limited amount of time, but I'm going to be presenting a longer prompt later on the vision train at around 2:22 p.m. PST. To find out more, please visit my website. And I'm seeking support with funding to make an embodied edutainment ecosystem to make mental wellness accessible to all. Please reach out to me via my website or email if you're aligned with creating a global culture of compassionate corporeal care. And that's the letter X at raz.ma.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rasma. That was great. It's really good to get into our bodies. Next up, we have Natasha Robinson. Tashka started out as a San Francisco local independent fashion designer. She's explored her overlapping passions in fashion design, textile design, while majoring in knitwear design and construction. Her undergraduate senior collection was selected to be presented to the graduate collections of the New York Fashion Week in 2016. The words freedom and innovation best define my design journey as I strive to reinvent clothing that has performance-based comfort with a modern aesthetic as a lifelong passion fed by a competitive dance, movement, and fashion. My investment into the full cycle production is what makes my work so intensely personal. The raw emotion infused in my textile design is embraced by control, engineering, and nuanced understanding of the weight and drape of the material. That was a beautiful quote by Tashka. And if you haven't seen her dancing, that's also very beautiful. Welcome, Tashka.
Thank you, Faith, and thank you, Raz. I actually had to go off camera because I needed to be moving around and dancing around my studio just to pattern interrupt the absolute terror that my nervous system goes into before public speaking. And when I thought about pre-recording, me talking about the project that I'm bringing forth for the collaboratory, which is clothing that is modular, that is inspired by fractals and the synergetics of Buckminster Fuller, I decided that actually what I really want to make visible is my own process of becoming through this process of bringing this project forward. And the process is slaying the fears and slaying my own interference, and how do I meet the challenges that come up, and what do I do in the moments when I feel stuck, which happens especially when I start occupying my brain more than my body. And so I go back into my transdisciplinary background, which is something that helps me thrive and regenerate my bioenergetic vessel. When I get stuck in my mind and I get really creative about over conceptualizing, I remember that this is the time to get into my body and start bringing the energy back, instead of like trying to limit myself with words. And so I often think about this feeling of reverence and awe that we can all relate, listening to the incredible presentations today and looking at the incredible works of art. And what often goes unnoticed is the human process of becoming that the artists went through in bringing this something new and original forward. And so and what would it feel like if we all could experience on top of the piece of art the human process that went behind the stage, and the story of us slaying our own dragons in order to show up. So I would like to actually ask everyone, and so that we can all share, how do you and whether do you cross-pollinate from other disciplines and other interests in when you need to regenerate the project that you're working on? And do you ever and how do you pattern interrupt your own moments of stuckness and your own moments of self-interference? And I hope that through all of us sharing that, we can all learn to regenerate our vessel and connect to the source more, so that we can all bring our work forward and amplify our voices in the becoming. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I'm so grateful that we've all found each other. The intersection of living systems and art are definitely some of my favorite things. And yeah, to all be together, cross-pollinating, reorienting to this new framework of understanding the world from a place of wholeness and a place of interdependence. Yeah, just feeling a lot of gratitude and reverence, as you said, for one another, for this community, and for the living world that we all get to be integral functions of. So we're going to close out the live stream. For those that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. If you look in the description, there's links to join us for the rest of the day. We have a couple different spatial web, kind of more immersive platforms where you can experience some of the art. And yeah, looking forward to having you all join us today and throughout the Design Science Studio for this whole decade of art that creates history. It is just such an honor to be part of this path. So thank you.